Hello, welcome to another vlog. It's a really pleasant weekend in December here on the coast of Anglesey, and I've just come out for a beach walk. It's not my fault if I happen to have a camera with me. So as you can see, I'm back at the church in the sea as usual, mainly because I can't be asked to drive any further than this, and it was a bit of a spur of the moment thing anyway. So it just so happens it's low tide here at the moment, and it's a very low spring tide, and it makes the beach look rather like the surface of the moon. But what it does mean is there's plenty of photo opportunities, and I also have a slightly longer photo in mind because I'm going to walk around the headland and see if I can get a decent shot of the Clean Peninsula or possibly Snowdonia, because I understand there's quite a lot of snow on the peaks at the moment, so that might be quite interesting when the setting sun gets a bit lower and lights it up. So I've walked all the way around the headland now. What you can see over my shoulder over there is Aberffraw Bay, and I'm just on this amazing rocky outcrop that really is quite spectacular at low tide. I'll swing you around to show you, and apologies for the fact that you're going to be looking straight into the sun as well. So as you can see, we've got these incredible leading lines and all this texture in the rock, and the outcrop over there which kind of lends itself to a long exposure and smooth the sea out. And we've got some really interesting light as well to add to the party. So what I'm going to do is get set up here and just explore some different compositions with all this fabulous texture in the foreground, and then later on, as I mentioned, swing you around again. Over in that direction is the Clean Peninsula and Snowdonia, and as the sun goes down, I'm hopeful that it might throw some interesting light over there. I've got a 300mm lens, which on my crop sensor is going to push it out to about 450. The headland you can see way in the distance there is actually Llandwyn Island, and what often happens is when the sun goes down, it catches the lighthouses, and it makes quite an interesting perspective from this direction. I shot it in the summer, actually before I started vlogging. I got some quite interesting pictures, and of course with a really long lens it's going to pull the mountains in as well as a good backdrop. So I'm going to set up here and then just muck about with different compositions. I don't really feel like walking much further, even though it's quite a pleasant afternoon. I'm too old and knackered. So I'll get set up and we'll see what happens. So it's about an hour later. I've taken a series of long shots across the bay to Llandwyn Island, and it's not really likely that any of them are going to be much use, because even though the lighthouse itself and the island was being quite nicely lit up, the backdrop is just a solid slab of grey because the mountains are completely covered in cloud. So I've abandoned that idea. I'm back to the composition I showed you earlier with the rocks leading lines down to the outcrop. The sun has finally gone down behind a cloud, but there's lots of really nice fluffy high clouds which I'm hopeful might light up a bit later on. So I've put my wide angle lens on. I'm currently, hang on a minute, 13mm. I know you needed to know that. I've got ISO 100 f9, so and I'm actually looking across to some rocks over there, so I haven't really got anything really close up in the foreground, so no worries about depth of field. Polarizing filter on just to take the sea down a little bit, and I'm just going to sit here, take some shots, a bit like last week where I got lazy and didn't move. I've walked a lot further today, mind, so I've made up for it. But I'm going to sit here probably for another hour or so. I'm getting a bit cold, but I am sort of down out of the wind, and I just have a suspicion I might get some interesting colours in a little while. And I'm being surrounded by fishermen. I'm in the middle of nowhere. There's 860 miles of coast they could go fishing on, but they want to get in my shot. So I've ended up completely recomposing the shot. I've now got some more water in the foreground in the hope that I might be able to bounce a bit of light off it. But my earlier bravado about the possibility of a decent sunset has completely disappeared. Although, as you'll know from some previous blogs of mine, I am known to be wrong about sunsets. So I'm still going to wait it out, even though I am now absolutely freezing, almost out of coffee, and it's a really long walk back to the car. So let's see what happens. So as I thought, I didn't really get that much of a sunset. I'm not sure what I've got on the camera, but I don't really care because, as I said earlier, the whole point was to come out for a really nice walk, and I just happened to have a camera with me because why not? And one of the things about living around here is you expect it to be blowing a gale at all times, and in December you expect it to be absolutely freezing. So it's been a real treat to get out on an afternoon like this with hardly any wind at all and take some pictures and look at the scenery. So with that, I'll bid you goodbye because my lovely lady wife, I understand by text, has told me there's beef and Yorkshires on the menu. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.